is a very interesting topic. Like, you hear a lot of young men trying to optimize their testosterone. There's a lot of correlation with, like, if you're high testosterone, it's like more drive, just essentially more of a man, and a lot of people want to optimize that now. And also, once again, from the 1970s up until today, we've lost about 1% of our total testosterone every year. So approximately like 40-50% has dropped in testosterone levels in the past like 50-40 years. Like, that's ridiculous. First of all, why do you think that is the case? And second of all, how do you think we can go about optimizing that?
Well, the drop in testosterone it's always something similar. So it's always two things. One is the toxins, industrial toxins, and the second thing is the absence of nutrients or nutrient deficiencies. So every health problem, you can kind of reduce it down to those two causes. Now, obviously, there's a lot of nuance and details around each one, but that's really the cause of every health condition today. So in the case of testosterone, you can take some specific examples. There's a lot of studies linking microplastics to ruining, putting hormones out of whack and things of that nature. So a lot of estrogen mimicking compounds in everything, food packaging, not just the food packaging, you can't really escape it. So that has a big effect. Then there's also the change in diets. You could say even things like raw milk, has a lot of there's a lot of hormones in raw milk. People used to only drink raw milk once upon a time. Nowadays, no one drinks raw milk. The changing the diets, eating less meat, the meat being lower quality, all of these things compounding over time is what creates all health problems, not just the low testosterone.
Yeah.
It's also, there's also some societal changes. Testosterone is also in the mind, and you can see kind of the culture of the people. You can say men are a bit more feminine these days. You can say men are a bit weaker, right? People are saying those things, and that's also part of, let's say, the low testosterone society that is around us today. But I'd say things are swinging back a bit the other way.
So I've tested my testosterone actually, and I know your take on studies and everything, or like, when you're testing your testosterone, it's like mine was around like mid 400s. Okay. But like I go to the gym every single day and I sleep well. Like I got my whoop band, like, efficiency
that's
is like
low,
90%.
Right? Is that like low?
That's on the lowest, low. That's on the lower side.
Yeah, but like I feel amazing, eat steak, eggs, all of that. So what would you say there?
That's the thing. That's the problem with the blood test is that it's just taking a sample of your blood in that specific moment. And there's other doctors that explain things like, well, just because you have something in the blood, it doesn't even mean that your cell is utilizing it correctly. So blood test is always take things with a grain of salt, and I wouldn't get too hung up on the blood tests. It usually only leads to taking supplements or, more of a vegan diet. That's where people go when they do blood tests most of the time. So I wouldn't get too hung up on that. I would say you could just, you always want to look at those two things that I said, exposure to toxins and your diet. And if you optimize those two things over time, I would expect that the testosterone level would increase, but I would not get hung up about it.
Yeah.
It's more, the most important thing is always, people don't like this, but it's true. You subjectively, how you feel. Are you satisfied with how you feel? That is the only thing that actually matters in the end. Now, that's not what people want to hear. Oh, I want to have all my data and da-da-da. It's like, it means nothing. If it's only about what you're subjectively satisfied with. So you're telling me that you're subjectively satisfied. There's nothing to do, If you say, hey, actually, sometimes I'm a bit tired and I'm taking afternoon naps and my focus just switches off at some point, then it's like, okay, well then you're not satisfied and there's something to do. But if you say everything is fucking good, sorry for swearing, we can blur, everything is good, then there's nothing to do. So it's only about that.
I almost cannot believe that's your number. He's probably one of the healthiest people I know. Like, it's ridiculous. That maybe just a testimony to the areas of blood tests.
The other thing with the other thing with testosterone is what time of day you do the test changes it completely, which is also another thing to say. Maybe blood tests are not super useful, because if you test your testosterone, and I've done this myself, I tested my testosterone at 8 a.m., at 10 p.m., 10 a.m., so 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and midday, and there was like a 30-40% difference from the morning to the afternoon. So that's another reason. That's another, it kind of points towards saying, blood tests, how you'd have to test every few minutes to see something accurately over time, so I wouldn't get too strung up on the blood test. It's only about if you're satisfied with yourself, with how you feel. And if you're not, then there's some things to change there, And it usually translates to higher testosterone, but it's not always the case,
Okay. You briefly spoke about supplementation. what is your take on supplementation? I'll quickly, briefly give you sort of my philosophy behind
Sure.
it, because I do think everybody is looking for the quick way out, like what's a secret supplement stack that's going to increase your testosterone and whatever. And I think a lot of people today is like supplementing just for the sake of supplementation. I think we should definitely supplement for the sake of deficiency rather than just supplementation. But how do you go about supplementation? Because I know you don't actually take any supplementation. What's your philosophy behind that?
Well, I don't take any synthetic supplements.
Okay.
But you could say me drinking blood is a form of supplement, because it's not something I do all the time,
okay.
but it's something that I understand is a high concentration of nutrients in the blood. So I'm going to drink as much blood as I can. Oysters is another example. For me, that's a supplement, meaning that it's no more than a few percent of the total calories of my diet, maybe less, let's say. But for me, that's a food that I know is very concentrated in minerals.
Yeah.
So I'm going to eat supplements, but it's not like a staple. It's just something I do consistently for the nutrients. So it's only about what's the source of the nutrient. So supplements, they take something natural and then they isolate it, and it's processed. That's what a supplement is. It's something that's natural, processed, and isolated. And then I prefer to say, well, you could do that if you want to. I always like to get my nutrients directly from the source, because then there's all the other nutrients are in there. There's the bacteria, there's the enzymes. It's going to digest better. So it's only about, for me, it's choosing the source of where you want to get your nutrients, and my preference is always to get it from food source, from the original source, let's say, rather than something that's been processed and isolated. So that's all it is. But yeah, supplements is just, it's kind of the culture at the moment. It's very trendy. It's a very good product for e-commerce companies to sell, which is why they're very excuse me. It's a very good product for e-commerce companies to sell, which is why they're very big on the marketing of it. It's really the perfect product. I'm staying in a house now with e-commerce multi-millionaires making millions a month, and supplements is the best product, So because it doesn't it expires in a long time. It's cheap. It doesn't need to be in the fridge. It's light in weight. It's a big one for e-commerce. So that's why they're so big, really. And that's completely fine. Nothing against business and all that stuff. But if you really want my advice, I would say it's probably better. You're going to get more benefits if you eat it from the food source directly.
Yeah, I think people are coping when it comes to taking supplements, because I think it's always like hard work that's going to get you the best results. I think people take supplements and they think that's going to make the massive difference, but if you lay the foundation correctly and you got the fundamentals there, like supplementation, like I don't even really take any supplements. Also the stuff I do take is also got another philosophy, like I try to live in accordance with nature and as close to the source as possible. So I fully agree with you on that point.
Chris Williamson, he famously doubled his test from 490 to like 1100. And he mentions like the first thing, Tonga Dali, Makarut, lifting.
and then he says, here's my affiliate link.
Fair. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's completely fine. I'm not slating anyone's business in any way. But yeah, I increased my own testosterone levels by 216% in about 100 days. There was no supplements involved, so... You don't have to do those things. You can if you want to, and for some people it works, and that's great. You can do whatever you're attracted to. I was always attracted to wackier, more interesting ideas for me personally, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to drink blood. And
I think the main takeaway there is just like it's always better to get the actual thing, because there's so much things out. Like you can get like vitamin D3 and all this stuff, and to be honest, I do take that, but I 100% prefer just being in the sun, and I think that's the best way to do it, and especially with magnesium, with all these things like vitamin C, like that's just ridiculous. Like to me, you need to get it from the source, from foods, from fruits and stuff like that. So